So, mental health issues in Barbados among the youth, I would say stuff like ADHD, schizophrenia. You can have stuff like
Welcome to Y2Y 246 as we discuss youth and mental health. Are you ready? Good morning and welcome to today's discussion, Youth and Mental Health. My name is Jada Hope and I'll be today's moderator for the discussion. But first, we have a special prize for the first person to post a Barbadian flag, a $25 gift voucher from D's Mega Styles. Before we start today's discussion, please take a look at this clip.
Mental illness, when I hear that, I believe is how you perceive the world around you, how you interpret things. Well, not only youth in Barbados, but I mostly see anxiety, like general anxiety and depression mostly. But that's in youth in general. But in Barbados, mostly depression. Mostly depression. Some people there just like, if they don't think they could cope with how life is going, so stressors, they could just be admitted to like take a break from life, so to speak. A lot of people don't want to get diagnosed because there's this thing in Barbados where they are afraid of being labeled as mad, so to speak. So I do believe that there are a lot of undiagnosed cases of mental illness amongst the youth in Barbados.
Join with me here are our two panelists, Miss Dominique Harris, who is studying sociology, at UWI. Psychology, sorry. And then we have Miss Rochelle Adams, who is currently studying sociology and psychology at UWI. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
And today's discussion, as I said, is youth and mental health. I ask that you viewers, if you have any questions to join the discussion, please post them in the chat. So what I believe my first question to you is, can you define mental health and what exactly does it mean to have good mental health?
So mental health basically is about the health of your mind. So good mental health, I think, is, well, the absence of any mental illness, but not absence in terms of you don't have it, but absence in terms of you're dealing with it in a way that you're productive in society. So having good mental illness is keeping in check of how you're feeling, making sure if things are not okay, that you're getting help for them, and so on.
So how exactly is it determined when you know something is wrong? Who do you go to figure that out? Of course, you will have this opinion, I'm not mentally prepared, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But how exactly are you diagnosed with a mental illness?
Mm-hmm. So you could go to multiple people. You could go to a friend or family just to say, hey, this is going on. I don't know what it means, but it's not okay. Can you help me? And of course, they're not qualified to actually diagnose or anything like that, but it's somebody to help support you and help maybe take you to the right place you need to go. You could go to your doctor. They can point you in the right direction. You can go to a psychologist, and you can find a list of many of the psychologists in Barbados on Facebook. The Psychological Association, I think, is what their Facebook page is called. Oh. And they have a multitude of resources that would point you in the right direction. We also, at many of our polyclinics, have psychologists that you can try and make an appointment with. I think, yeah, what else is your question?
What are some of the mental illnesses that we are seeing more frequently with our young people today, mm-hmm. that we as a nation should really be aware of and concerned about? Because I understand that there's quite a stigma towards those who are experiencing mental challenges and mental illnesses. Can you tell me a bit about that, please?
Mm-hmm. Well, as one of the earlier videos said, depression is very common. They call depression the common cold of mental illnesses, not because it's not severe, but just because so many people suffer from it. I'm a volunteer at Verdun, so addiction is something that is a big problem in Barbados as well. And I think there is, as you said, a huge stigma towards all mental illnesses. But there are cases of every single mental illness in Barbados. I think it's just not enough education about it.
All right.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Well, it's clear from the clip we just watched that there is some form of an understanding about mental health and mental issues. Do you think that there should be something done by maybe the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health or social agencies to properly make sure that our young people are educated about these mental illnesses? Because more than likely, education can also play a huge role in decreasing that stigma towards those who are challenged with it.
Definitely.
Yes, I do agree. I think that ministry, family, everybody needs to understand that your mental health is very important. We have grown up in a society where having a mental illness is something not spoken about. We don't understand that depression is something very common and everyday. So I am thinking maybe we can get programs, teach children from very young the signs, so that because children can be very cruel, so that they don't shun the other person, let them understand that not everybody is the same and that we all go through points of mental illness.
All right, so you were speaking about the fact that children can be cruel. And of course, when you're sending your child to an institution where you see everyday students interacting and walking around, do you think that children suffering from these mental illnesses or challenges should be taken out of school to either get better or reintegrate to school, or taken somewhere else for like a school designed for them or something like that? Do you think they should be taken out of schools?
I think that depends on the illness.
Depends on the illness?
Yeah,
if you're a schizophrenic, well, definitely you need, but if you're just depressed, you just need counseling. I think you should get everybody in your class or in your school on board to deal with those issues, so that if it's seen again, that they know how to deal with it and people won't point fingers. Because when you take people out of schools, like with HIV, we say don't discriminate, don't do stigma. So if I come to you and I say I'm HIV positive and you remove me from the school, it creates stigma. It creates me to feel, makes my illness worse, actually.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the severity of it. So obviously, if you're somebody who is at risk of self-harm, you should not just, you should be treated. So say you're somebody who's tried to commit suicide or something, yes, you need to go and get help and then come back to a school. But if you are just somebody suffering with a mental illness that is managed and you're dealing with it and you have help around you, I think it's beneficial to be part of society, to show other people that this is something I'm dealing with. It's not the end of the world. It's something that I can manage and deal with, and it's something that, you know, we should all speak about. I also think there is, as we said, there's a lot of stigma around it, but I think the levels of stigma vary. I think recently, with the amount of education about mental illness just in the world in general, and also in Barbados, that we're coming to accept mental illnesses such as depression and anxiety, but some of the other ones such as like alcoholism, addiction, schizophrenia, people tend to separate them. They say, well, I think it's okay to have depression, but it's not okay to be schizophrenic. Or I think it's okay to have anxiety, but it's not okay to be an addict.
All right, well, please take a look at clip 2.
When I hear the term mental health, right, the first thing I come to mind would be like emotional stability. When somebody's emotionally unstable, right, their emotions tend to run rampant. They get angry at some of the smallest things and usually cry a lot, like for foolish reasons. And another form of mental health would be something like, it could affect your intelligence as well. Like children tend to learn a lot slower than the rate they're supposed to learn at. You understand? So that's what's come to mind.
Madness, depression, and anxiety. Someone's emotional state.
All right, having just watched that, Can you tell me a bit about the effects on an individual to which a mental illness could have? Because as the boy would have just said, it could obviously probably slow down your education and stuff like that. So can you tell me a bit about probably some effects or problems that people will experience or see when having a mental illness?
I think that all depends on the illness. Well, I can speak about depression firsthand. When I was younger, I suffered with depression. I came first in class. I was an honor student at my school. I did all the right things, but nobody noticed that I was depressed. Fighting with my depression, I guess I would say I fell into bad company and I made a bad choice, that I was incarcerated for 12 years. What I would say is, if depression is not caught and dealt with, it leads you to making very bad choices, and choices that you may have made a bad choice on the spot, but you are judged by that choice for the rest of your life. So then we have to go back and see our young people, because if we have no one to give the baton to, we don't have a nation. A lot of young people are depressed. I guess that's why crime is so rampant at the moment. Every time you turn on your television, you see somebody shooting somebody. We think it's unemployment. People talk about job cuts the other day, but most of those people that went home aren't out doing crime. Most of these people that we see involved in the drug trade, involving guns and whatever the case may be, is a sense of abandonment. They want belongingness. And we blame parents because we were told that good parenting, but what is good parenting? Society more influences than a parent. You spend more time with society than you do at home with your parent, because you get up on mornings, you get ready for school, and then everybody branches off and goes to work, goes to school. You interact with your teacher for maybe 10 hours of the day. Then you travel home with your friends. And then if your parent is out working, how long do you see them? Until it's bedtime. So you're going through something. People say parents don't notice, but is it only the onus on parents? Teachers should notice, friends should notice, but the only way for people to notice is if they know what to look for.
And thus education should be improved to help these individuals look for these symptoms to which their child or friend may be experiencing. So we spoke about the parents, and the fact that no one truly knows what good parenting is or what to look for in their child. But what is something that parents can do to play a factor in helping their child? Because you said there's a sense of abandonment. Is there probably they could come home more often or do this or do that? How do they get involved in helping their child?
Well, I think saying that they could come home more often is a bit unrealistic for some people. Majority of parents are trying to do what they can, the best they can, to help their kid. I don't think anybody wants to say that they're the kind of parent who's abandoning their kid. People are doing the best that they can. I think the responsibility, as you said, is on the society as a whole. I think we need to educate people on mental illness. I think also something that is very important that is not done is we need to teach children coping mechanisms from a young age on how to deal with things, because life is not easy, especially for kids. We need to teach them how to deal with their emotions, how if they're feeling upset or if they have a traumatic experience, we need to give them the tools as kids to be able to deal with that. Don't wait until they're adults and they're suffering with all these mental illnesses to say, okay, now let's tell you how to fix it.
So that being said, do you have probably any advice for anyone, like a youngster like myself or someone like that, who may be experiencing depression or some mental illness, and I'm in an environment where, of course, I have loving family and loving friends and loving teachers, but I still, as an individual, want to do something for myself? Is there any advice you'd give to that person, maybe being in less stressful situations or something like that?
Well, I can't I can't necessarily say less stressful because what may be really stressful to you may be very simple to me. What I would say is try to educate yourself. You figured out, try to get help. Try to get assistance in terms of reading upon stuff. Because now we are in an age where technology is very rampant. You can find almost anything on the internet. So maybe you can educate yourself, and in educating yourself, you can also educate your family, because we also have to remember we come from a very hush-hush society where it is frowned upon. To us that are at university or that we have been exposed to these things, we may say mental health is so normal, but the truth of the matter is in everyday society it is not. It is still frowned upon. It is still taboo, to be honest. So I guess we need to, as you said, incorporate it in schools, explain what it really is. Just like how we have sex education, we should also have mental health, incorporate that, because a lot of people make bad sexual decisions to a lot to do with their mental health.
And their family.
And their so we need to revamp, look and see as a person what you can do for yourself.
Okay.
I also think it's very commendable and important for people like you, who have suffered with mental illness, to talk about it, because it's, as you said, it's something that is very taboo and not talked about. And I think the more people who speak about it, the more people will feel like they're not alone and that they have someone they can relate to. And I think it's very commendable that you are open to speaking about yours.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. We'll be taking some comments from our viewers. Our first comment is, "This show looks good." So you're all doing something right. We also have, I believe, a question for young people who feel anxious and don't have any way of knowing for sure who and where can they turn to for a diagnosis.
I want to start by saying, just because you don't have to have a diagnosed mental illness to be suffering, you don't try and minimize the fact that you're saying you're not sure or whatever. If you're suffering, you're suffering, and it's good that you're looking for help. As I said, you can go to your doctor and ask them. You can go to the polyclinics. You can go to, if you're a UE student, there is a mental health counselor at UE that you can make an appointment with.
Guidance counselor.
Yes, and a guidance counselor, or go to your guidance counselors at school. Yeah, those are quite a few resources that you can get.
All right. And we have depression is way more than just needing support.
100%. I think a lot of people think that depression is just, you're sad, yeah, you need someone to talk to, move on. A lot of people actually need medication, because depression and a lot of mental illnesses, which we should definitely talk about, it is a chemical imbalance in your brain. I like to equate it to somebody who has diabetes. They need insulin to function every single day. Somebody with a mental illness that is caused by a chemical imbalance needs medication every single day to function.
So we've talked about the fact that the home environment is very important to be involved, the fact that it needs to be talked about, and that the stigma towards those suffering from it needs to be decreased. Is there anything else that you feel needs to be done in order to that, or at least that the young people who are experiencing this should know or need to know, or anything like that?
Sorry, repeat your question.
All right. I was saying that we discussed a lot about the home. We discussed the stigma towards it and the fact that it needs to be decreased, and that education is the best way to attack that stigma towards it. We also discussed the fact that it deals a lot with the society in Barbados, the fact that not a lot of people talk about it, not a lot of people accept it because it's very hush-hush and so forth. And thus I'm asking you if you have any final comments on to probably a young person, you've experienced it yourself or anything like that? Any final comments, any form of encouragement or whatnot you'd like to give them before we wrap up?
Well, for me personally, I am not Christian, but what I would say is there is a higher power. The first thing you have to do is acknowledge that higher power and go to them. That's the source. The second thing you need to do is to look into you, because we have grown up in a society where you bury stuff. So a lot of us are passive aggressive, and we don't even understand that you standing on my foot today, you stand on it over and over and over, and I never do anything about it, but a fly lands on my shoulder and I pushed on the fly, and everybody does not understand. As she said, you have to learn to deal with your emotions. You have to tap into you. You have to understand yourself as a person. What triggers you? What makes you unhappy? How to cope with what is going on around you. That's the major thing. Yes, medication will help, which I personally don't recommend it, because being on that type of medication, unless it's absolutely necessary, it slows you down a lot. I remember being on Magadons. I remember being on antidepressants. I remember being on all those things. I remember being on Zoloft, and I remember not being able to open my eyes for more than 5 minutes and understand what was going on. And in an environment like a prison, that is not very safe, and is also not really allowed.
Well, we have another comment. What are your thoughts on implementing mental health days at work separate to
Sick leave.
sick leave?
I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people they feel that they can't take a mental health day because you're not really sick. You're not, like, you don't have the flu or anything, so you feel like you can't take a mental health day. But actually, you are sick. Going to work is not going to help. Going to work is not going to help you that day. It's not going to help your company that day. It's not going to help you in the long run. I think the sooner that offices understand that and companies understand that, the more productive their staff will be. And yeah, the happier everyone will be.
So you believe that mental illnesses should be taken just as seriously as physical illnesses?
Definitely.
Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Because if your mind is not functioning, nothing else can function.
Yeah. And in fact, the Substance Abuse Foundation, where I volunteer, they are hosting an employers outreach program on substance use, abuse, and addiction in the workplace to help educate employers on how to support their staff suffering with addiction or any other mental illness. So if anybody wants more information on that, that's happening on the 17th of next month.
All right, please take a listen to this clip.
I would chalk it down to like a 50-50. I can't say it for sure, but I would say like half of the children in Barbados, half of the youth in Barbados suffering with a mental illness. It could be more, it could be less, but I would say half, because there are some of our youth that are troubled. And like, take an example, the schools, what happened in the schools, right? Children don't fight because, they want to. Well, some do fight because they want to, but children will fight because, all right, the emotions running rampant, like they said earlier, they just get angry for no reason and they just interfere with people like that. Like, I could come to you and be like, what's going on, you know what I'm saying? They just start you for no reason, you understand? So I would say it's a 50-50 thing.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
This was a
No,
very...
she thought you don't have it.
All right, so we're gonna have another comment, which is there a help or focus group for people to go to meet and share their trials and experiences?
So, unfortunately, not that I know of. However, I know in the States or in Canada and other places in like North America, they do have Emotional Anonymous, which is the same concept as like Alcoholics Anonymous, but there's none in Barbados. I think maybe if enough people wanted to, there could be a way for the young people of Barbados to form something like that, because I think that would be really important for Barbadians.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's a way we can try and get that started.
Let's have another comment. What about parents who don't see depression as a real reason to stay home from school?
That's hard. That's very hard. I think it's the same about education. It may be helpful to go to your guidance counselor one day and explain the situation and see if there's a way that you can all come together with a guidance counselor, with the parents, with the school, and have a discussion about it, as opposed to just maybe the parent thinking that the child's faking it or something. I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
I didn't really hear the question, to be honest.
All right. What about parents that don't see depression as serious enough for their child to stay home from school? They might see it as, oh, a day off from getting education. You have exams coming soon. That's not that serious. Go and learn.
Education, definitely. Education and empathy. Empathy. We have spoken about a lot of things, but we have not spoken about putting ourselves in people's positions. And I find we have grown up, or we are growing up in a society where it's so important to get these HCXCs and to get this scholarship that we forget to be empathetic. We forget that people are only human beings. They can't do more. A day must come when I am tired. I cannot always be on the go. I have to take time to reflect. So I guess we have to be empathetic, and we have to understand that just how, because every person has their days when they are unhappy. That's human nature.
And I think, as you said, what I might consider something that is, a stressful situation or a struggle, you might say, oh, but that's nothing, I deal with that every day. But different people suffer with different things, and different people put weight on different things. Something that might be a huge problem for me might not be a problem for you. And I think it's very important that we respect other people when they say that this is a struggle for me, and don't dismiss people and say, well, it's not that bad.
Especially in schools. Exams are very nail-biting. They make you very nervous. Some people get diarrhea, some people vomit. People don't understand the stress because the thought process is, I have to do well. When you don't do well, remember there's a bar, there's the status quo. If I am not a part of the elite, I have a problem.
We'll get another comment, which is, some companies now see that mental health is just as important as physical illness, and have on-call counselors for their staff to access. Progression is being made, but more encouragement is needed. Great, relevant discussion topic. Hope those who it would be extremely important to get to see this. All right. All right. So my last question to you is, what would you tell anyone who thinks that these mental illnesses such as depression, maybe ADHD and stuff like that, is attention seeking? That would be the term used. Oh, she just want attention. Don't be hating on my. Oh, it's all a bunch of dramatics. What would you tell that person, having that we just discussed the fact that there's somewhat of a discrimination against it, a stigma towards it, that you need to be empathetic to these individuals and put yourself in their shoes? What would you tell that person?
But it is attention seeking. It is attention seeking. It is, look at me, something is wrong, I need help. It's attention seeking. We need to put positivity to that attention seeking, because most people that try to kill themselves don't want to die.
I don't think nobody actually wants
nobody
to die.
wants to die. They just want somebody to help, somebody to think that you're important enough to give you that one word and say, pull back.
So yeah, I think it's to change what not everyone is, yeah, I think it's to change what you define attention seeking as. It's not somebody who just wants everyone look at me, look at me. It's somebody who wants somebody to help. It's, yeah, I guess that might be a way.
Help me.
I also want to go back to that other comment quickly and about the depression and staying home from school. Maybe talk to your parents on a day that you're not feeling so bad and that you don't want to stay home from school and explain it. So it's more of, this is something that I suffer with, and it's not taken out of context on the day you want to stay home saying, oh, I'm suffering, I want to stay home. You're just explaining it to them, if that makes any sense.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sure you guys answered a lot of people's questions. We got a lot of information about the stigma towards mental illnesses and who you can turn to for help, what it can lead you to. And thus, I thank you very much for coming here today.
Thanks for having us.
And I'd like to say congratulations to last week's winner, Visual Singh, for receiving last week's prize. I thank you guys for viewing and joining discussion. You were very helpful. And I thank the production team, the makeup artists, everyone that made this live show possible. Thank you. Hope to see you next week.
No.
I'm still nervous.
I know. I feel like I bumbled through.
Yeah, I felt like that was it.